Yeah, hello, my name is Konstantin Meyer. Well, I'm new on YouTube and yeah, I wanted to talk about Qualia. Well, that's my second try. The first video I uploaded didn't really wanted to upload and it basically removed my whole video, so I have to do it again. Okay, so um, I've been thinking about Qualia quite a lot. When I first heard about Qualia, it was, well, I turned to idealism because I thought, well, that can't be solved, this problem. Um, so I basically turned from a reductive materialist to an idealist at this point. But lately I've been having some doubts about it, about the thought experiments, about Qualia, and I actually don't think they are valid anymore. And yeah, I wanted to share my thoughts with you here. Um, First of all, if we look at the Mary's thought experiment, I think there are quite some things I don't really like about this experiment. Um, because the premise is basically beyond our imagination. If you say, well, this color scientist basically knows all the facts about color, or everything there is to know about color, I don't think we really can't imagine what it is like to know all the information, all the physical knowledge one can have about. I don't think, I actually think it's beyond our grasp as human beings to know everything physical about something. Um, and then basically there's the question, in which sense do we even know? You know, that's also something which is which also one has to basically really has to consider. If we say, basically the experiments posits that there's some kind of direct contact in knowing. If I know physically something, then I have this direct content, direct, I mean connection. They have this direct connection, this immediate connection to the physical. And if I know something experiential, I have this direct connection to the experience. So basically, first of all, that's something that I really never liked about this thought experiment. And if one basically agrees on that, what I just said, if he said or disagrees with that, or basically not mainly disagrees, but if we assume for a second that, or if we know what one means by that, so basically we can say that. Even then, this experiment still has. I've got some doubts about it, because if you basically know everything physical there is to know, you also know everything what happens in the brain when you see colors. And basically we would think that Mary couldn't, or that she doesn't know how basically red compares to blue. In that sense, she wouldn't, or we think that she can't discriminate those in that sense experiential. But I would say that if one looks in the brain, you could tell, well, I'm seeing red now, I'm seeing blue now. So by knowing the physical facts about something, about everything basically there, she could, without experience, say, well, that is red and that is blue, without Daniel Dennett basically proposed the experiment. If one would the first object she'd see would be a banana, you know, and if we wanted to trick her and basically make this banana blue, you know, what would her reaction be? Would she say, ah, well, that's how yellow looks like? Well, basically I wouldn't say no. If she know basically all the brain functions, all the physical facts, if she would know everything, how color is processed in the brain, she would also know, well, that's blue, because I know what happens in the brain when I see blue and when I see yellow. And that's some doubts about that. And also what this basically says is, because color is so often connected with this idea of qualia, I think that's also quite difficult to say, because by that we are saying, well, there's color and there's the form, and in color we can say, well, that's red and that's blue and that's green, and so that we can basically pull them out of their context and say, well, I know how it is to see red, you know. That's basically the common form of saying, well, of saying, or basically saying what qualia is, by saying, well, I know how it is to see red. But do we really know how it is to see red? Because that is like saying, well, I can see red without knowing how it is to see green and how it is to see blue. And I don't think we can say that in that sense, because, well, we can't also basically you can't even take color and say, well, form is something different. So basically they have to do with each other. So it could be the same red, but if I see it on an old car or on the lips of a woman, it is certainly something different, you know. We perceive it as something different. So in that sense we don't know how it is to see red, you know, per se. You know, we can't say that. It is, you can't say it without the context. Well, that's one thing, and another thing is all these thought experiments about inverted qualia. I think there are also some kind of problems affiliated with it, because well, we say, well, it's inevitable to say, if I say, maybe it could be that what I name red is and what you also name red is something that I see as my red and you see as something which I normally perceive as blue. And well, we say, well, it could be because I can imagine it, but can you the question is, because all this builds up on the premise that I know how it is to see red, and I know how it is to see blue. But do we really know this? What difference does it make? And I want to show that on another thought experiment, also using the inverted spectrum. It could be, on this hypothesis, if we go a bit further on this, it could be that that my spectrum inverts every second, and also my memory inverts. So basically I would never able to tell if my spectrum just inverted. If that what I see red now basically was blue a second ago. So I couldn't tell this, and under this thought experiment, and basically if one takes that inverted spectrum argument seriously, we would have to grant that this idea basically is also possible, and that is follows from that, and that we have no, we ourselves have no possibility or ability to tell whether that which I see red is what I saw red 1 second ago. So I can't say if that happens or not. It's impossible for me to tell if that happens. So this whole construction of I know how it is to see red falls apart if we look at this. And if we spin this theory a bit further, I don't know how it is to see red. I see red, of course. But my ability to see red depends on me discriminating red against blue, against green, and so on. That's an ability I have. And you know, the way I see it, it's a bit counterintuitive, but if we take this inverted spectrum argument here, and basically if I wouldn't say it doesn't make any difference whatsoever if the other spectrum were inverted. I'm not saying that it is, but if it would be, it's just it's difficult to describe this now, but basically I think the whole notion is incoherent. But the only thing that we do, and what we mean by qualia, is discriminating one color against another. That we can say, well, red is not blue, and red is not green, and it's yellow is a bit nearer to red than blue, and so on. That's our ability, and it wouldn't make any difference if even if my qualia inverted and the memory inverted, there's no difference of which anything could be said at all. And well, that's one thing, and this leads a bit to the next thing I wanted to talk about qualia is that we say that if we take the explanatory gap argument, for example, we say, well, qualia is inevitable, and we can't talk about it, and yet we say that there is something which is not explained by science, that there's a gap which has to be explained. That in the explanation there's a gap, and this gap has to be explained. But if you're not able to tell what exactly has to be explained, what gap is there anyway? If I mean, it's like saying, well, there's a gap, so there's a gap. But you don't say, wait, what exactly is the gap? You can't say it. You say, well, I can't say what the gap is. But you say, well, there's a gap. That doesn't really make any sense. So, I mean, this argument, I don't really like it, because explanatory gap, there is nothing to explain. So, and I think that comes, I mean, one can ask himself, where does it come from that we say there is something of which we can't say anything, and therefore it can't be explained? I think it comes from this notion that I think that explanation and the event, that in some points in our life, the event and the explanation, they diverge in some sense. There are strong emotional things that happen in our life, and then we say, or where we lose our words, where we say, well, we can't say anything about this. It's impossible to, I can't grasp this moment with words. It isn't possible. But that doesn't mean that there can't be an explanation. The event itself and the explanation, they don't have anything in common. That's that's the thing, and that's what we have to realize, that the event and the explanation are two completely separate things. Well, basically that's the point here. Yeah, the and that's also why I think that, if you say, well, I can't, the red I see, or this color or this form I see, what explanation do you expect? If I say, well, the explanation for that is the neuronal structures or functions in the brain, so, well, you say, well, that's not the event. Of course, that's not the event of me seeing red, but the event and the explanation are two completely separate things. So to me, that there can't be, it's completely strange, this idea that we even expect an explanation for this event of me seeing something or something like this. So, well, that's also where I think some kind of problem lies. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I got this strong feeling that this is also a problem here. Or something that really confuses us, that we say, well, there's something unsayable, but I say something about it, that, you know what I mean, that I say, well, there's a something, and I even say, well, there's a something, and then I say, well, but I can't say anything about it. So in which sense do we expect an explanation for that? Or in which sense do we even expect to say anything about it at all? Even the existence of it. To say the existence of it, to posit the existence of it, is basically absurd. And then there's this, I think that in general there's a lot of linguistic confusion involved in this. That we, even with the word being, in which sense is something, or in which sense is something real? What means reality in this sense here? I think that's also quite a big problem. If we talk about trying to say, well, what is the physical and what is the mental, and basically it leads us to say that the mental is and the physical is, and that's also some kind of problem, I think, that we have with language here. I also think that identitism and functionalism and there's also some kind of linguistic confusion going on there. And I like to think of consciousness as some kind of emergent property, but not in that sense that basically it's some kind of strong emergence where this completely new property comes into being, and it basically is some kind of independent of the physical in some kind of sense. And because then we always end up in the problem of how can these two interact, and I don't think we can solve this, because if we say, well, consciousness is immaterial, consciousness doesn't have any, consciousness itself doesn't have, space and time, and so that's not what, that these are properties of the physical world, but not of consciousness, because it is immaterial, it and then we, of course, we are left with the problem: how can there possibly be a place, a location where something is which doesn't have a location, which is immaterial? How can there be a material place for something immaterial? It doesn't really, we say, well, it's it's in the brain, you know, but basically it is not the brain, and there we come to all this also ultimately linguistic problems, and I like to think of consciousness as, you know, like the formation of a swarm, you know, of birds, because that also, in some sense, the formation itself, it is, in some sense, it is, you know, it is real, but in the other sense, you can analyze it back to its main components, and basically it is its main components. There we also have some kind of problems. The formation, you know, it has some kind of reality due to its relations. You know, the relations are in some kind of sense real, but them being real is another sense, or is in another way than the actual components. You know, the actual birds flying there. And I think this analogy basically is very much like I see consciousness, you know, and it's basically, you know, the formation itself didn't plan to you know, come into existence, you know, it just came into existence because the birds flew, you know, and it changes during time, the formation, you know, and there are some birds maybe fly away, and sometimes it you know, basically it changes during time, and at the end, well, the formation dies, and the birds basically still fly. So, and that's, I think that analogy basically very much makes sense, and it is rather coherent. You know, okay, that's basically a rather classical functionalist position here, but I think it basically makes quite a lot of sense. And if we assume more, if we say, well, consciousness has to be more, and you know, at least to me, the thought experiments, a lot of them concerning consciousness, are quite incoherent, and there are quite some problems with it, at least to me. I mean, one can assume it is more, you know, but then we are all left with these real hard problems. And basically, these are hard problems, like David Chalmers said, and I don't think we can solve them ever, because scientifically there can't be an explanation, because it's, like I said, actually qualia, you know, intentionality is something completely different, but at least qualia, I think there can't be anything said about it. That's the main problem here. So we will never, at least what I think, we will never find a scientific explanation for it. There are all kinds of problems. I'm concerned with it, which, like I said, we can't solve. I think we can't solve them, and well, then basically a functionalist position might be the best choice. But well, like I said, I change my opinion quite often. Can be very well that I might change my opinion on that rather soon as well. So, well, we'll see. I hope you found this video, my first video, quite interesting. Maybe not. You can comment on it, say your opinions on that. Well, goodbye.